All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, guys and gals. It is the 29th of May, 2019, and just a few days ago at Computex, they confirmed AMD confirmed the Ryzen 3000 series CPUs coming up. 5 CPUs, the top dog being a 12 core for $499. Let's go into this article that's on by anandtech.com. I'll put the link for the article down below in the description. But they said today at Computex, AMD CEO Lisa Su is announcing the raft of processors it will be launching on its new Zen 2 chiplet-based microarchitecture. Among other things, AMD is unveiling its new Ryzen 9 product tier, which is using for its 12-core Ryzen 9 3900X processor, and which runs at 4.6 GHz boost. All of the 5 processors will be PCIe 4.0 enabled, and while they're being accompanied by a new X570 chipset launch, they still use the same AM4 socket, meaning some AMD 300 and 400 series motherboards can still be used. We have all the details inside. A lot of people have been after details about AMD's next generation Ryzen platform for several months, ever since AMD teased the Matase Ryzen 3000 design at CES back in January. Most of that information is coming out today with Ryzen 9, 7, and Ryzen 5 processors in the mix. All these processors will be officially launched on July 7th, which is 7/7, correlating with the fact that the core chiplets of these products are built on the TSMC's 7nm process. This is technically a Sunday, but AMD doesn't mind too much. In reality, it means users might even get them in the mail the following Monday. Before talking about features, let's go straight to the CPU list. That's what most of you are here for. So at the top of the list, the Ryzen 9 3900X is going to have 12 cores, 24 threads, base frequency at 3.8 and boost to 4.6 GHz, 6 megabytes of L2 cache, 64 megabytes of L3 cache. This thing is going to be a monster, 105 watt TDP, and the suggested retailer's price of $499. Ryzen 7 3800X is the 8-core 16-thread that we've known to love from the Ryzen 7 series, but with a 3.9 and a 4.5 GHz base clock with 4 megabytes of L2 and 32 megabytes of whopping L3 cache. Still 105 watt TDP, but a $399 price range to bring it down. And then the Ryzen 7 3700X 8-core 16-thread, basically just a lower clocked version, same L2 and same L3 cache as the 3800, but a 65 watt TDP, so a significantly lower TDP on that chip right there, pricing it at $329. And then jumping down into the Ryzen 5 realm, the Ryzen 5 3600X 6-core 12-thread, 3.8 to 4.4 GHz, 3 megabytes of L2, 32 megabytes of L3, 95 watt TDP, and then a Ryzen 5 3600, which is a 6-core 12-thread, 3.6 to 4.2 megahertz speed, and 3 megabytes, 32 megabytes of L2 and L3 cache, and 65 watt TDP at $199. So looks like they're bringing in a heavy hitter up there at the Ryzen 9. We won't know exactly what the 7s and these 5s will do until they get in people's hands and we can compare them against the previous generation. But the TDP is nice. These are some low power chips, especially this Ryzen 7 3700X. Being only a 65 watt chip with 8 cores, 16 threads, that is potentially an awesome all-around budget chip right there. Well, it's not really budget, but I think this chip could fall in the high 200 range, which, I mean, Intel doesn't have a whole lot to compete with it right there. Going further down the list, talking about the Ryzen 9 3900X a little bit more, the Ryzen 3000 series will debut a new product tier for AMD, the Ryzen 9. In this case, the Ryzen 9 3900X will be AMD's first mainstream desktop 12-core processor. The processor is only one of the group that uses the 2 chiplets in a 6+6 configuration. The 3900X will have a base frequency of 3.8 GHz, a turbo frequency of 4.6 GHz, and a lineup of 6 megabyte of L2 cache and 64 megabyte of L3 cache. This confirms that each chiplet has 32 megabytes of L3 cache doubling what we saw in the first generation Zen microarchitecture. The CPU has a TDP of 105 watts, which for AMD processors is usually a good measure of all core power consumption, and will be enabled with a 24-pin PCIe or 24 PCIe 4.0 lanes, 16 for GPU, 4 for storage, and 4 for the chipset. Bam! The Ryzen 9 3900X will have a suggested e-tail price of $499 and will come with a cooler. More details in the coming weeks. I'd love to see the cooler that they're going to pair with this Ryzen 9. AMD compared this processor in its presentations to Intel's 12-core HEDT processor, the Core i9-9920X, which has an MSRP of $1199, and it doesn't come with a cooler. In this comparison, AMD provided Cinebench R20 performance data comparing the two processors. It should be noted that we can't confirm these results at this time. AMD states that in a single-thread performance, the 3900X beats the 9920X by 14% and also wins in a multi-threaded performance by 6%, all while having a lower TDP and a lot lower price. Wow, that is crazy if it's beating out the 9920X. The Ryzen 9 3900X is the new mainstream desktop flagship, although AMD clearly has enough headroom on this design to enable full 16 cores. Most users will expect this to come in the future, so it will be interesting to see if AMD will strategically play this card later on. Mainstream madness, the Ryzen 7 at 65 watts. For Ryzen 7 lineup, AMD is keeping the 8-core versions. These CPUs only have a single chiplet inside and no dummy chiplet. Of the two CPUs in this segment, the one that gets a big shock from us is actually the cheaper model. The Ryzen 7 3700X is a 8-core 16-thread CPU with 3.6 GHz base frequency and 4.4 turbo. It has 4 MB of L2 and 36 of L3, half of the L3 compared to the Ryzen 9 because it only has one chiplet. But the amazing thing is that the chip has a TDP of just 65 watts. Just on paper, it looks like this processor is one of the most efficient x86 processors, desktop processors ever made. This is likely the CPU configuration that AMD used in its Cinebench R20 demo back at CES, where it showed R20 equivalent multi-threaded performance for 40% less system power. And the price for this performance, only $329. If I put my reviewer hat on and looked at these specifications at a high level, the Ryzen 7 3700X promises to be one of the mainstream chip of choice for a substantial number of high-performance PCs this year. Absolutely. Like the Ryzen 9 3900X, AMD also ran a Cinebench comparison with the 8-core Ryzen 3700 versus Intel's mainstream i7 9700K. They scored 4806 versus 3726, that's a word, for the 9700K and the R20's multi-threaded test. So single-threaded, it looks like they're basically right there, almost identical, but multi-threaded, it's beating it. Wow, that's crazy. The budget builds with the Ryzen 5 6 cores, they are still very competitive. Users can now buy a 6-core processor for under $200. Oh, I'm getting a call. Hold on, let me mute this really quick. The processor's frequencies are commensurate with the position in the stack along with the pricing, and both CPUs will support all the same technologies. PCIe 4.0 as the bigger chips. These chips are still a single chiplet, not a dual chiplet design. So man, these things are looking spicy right here. But ladies and gentlemen, I do have to run. I am curious to see what chipsets will actually work from the previous generation. I don't want to upgrade my motherboard because I'm running an X470. And they said that some of them will work. I don't think it has any confirmation inside of here other than showing off an X570 board. But I want to thank y'all for coming out tonight. We will be back Monday through Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, like normal. I'm going to put this link for this down below in the description. And before we head off, I just want to check and see what the coin market cap is saying. Bitcoin's coming down a little bit, $88,654. Ethereum's at $269. Litecoin's at $116. Monero's at 95, Ethereum Classic's 825, just to round out the top little bit right there. So ladies and gentlemen, have a good day. Adios.